A black child boards a plane with his father, excited for a special trip. But when the crew orders him to give up his first-class seat for another passenger, humiliation strikes. What they don't know is that his father is one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. His calm but devastating response doesn't just defend his son's dignity. It leaves the entire flight crew's careers hanging by a thread. The terminal echoed with the sound of rolling suitcases and boarding announcements, but for 8-year-old Marcus, it was all background noise compared to the excitement he felt bubbling in his chest. His small hand clutched his father's as they walked toward the gate. This was no ordinary trip. It was Marcus's very first time flying first class. His father, David Carter, had promised him that one day he'd know what it felt like to sit at the very front of the plane, with wide seats and windows that looked out over the clouds. Today was that day. David Carter wasn't just any father. He was the CEO of one of the country's largest technology companies, a billionaire who had built his empire from the ground up. But to Marcus, he was just Dad, the man who still knelt to tie his sneakers, who never missed a Saturday basketball game, and who promised that no matter how busy life got, they'd always make time for adventures together. As they boarded, Marcus's eyes widened in awe at the polished cabin. He whispered, "Dad, it's so big. Look at the seats." His voice carried the kind of innocent wonder only a child could have. David smiled, ruffling his son's hair. "Told you first class was special, buddy." They settled into their seats, Marcus by the window, David beside him. The boy pressed his nose against the glass, watching the baggage carts scurry below. For a moment, everything was perfect. But then, a shadow loomed over them. A flight attendant, her uniform crisp, her expression stern, stopped at their row. She glanced at her clipboard, then at Marcus, her lips tightening. "Sir," she said, addressing David without so much as acknowledging the child, "there's been a seating adjustment. Your son will need to move to economy so another passenger can take this seat." David blinked, certain he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" She tapped her pen against the clipboard. "We've overbooked. This seat is needed for a priority passenger. Your son can be accommodated in economy. You'll remain here." Marcus turned from the window, his small face confused. "Dad? Did I do something wrong?" David felt his chest tighten. He leaned forward, his voice calm but edged with steel. "My son has a confirmed ticket for this seat. We booked it weeks ago." The attendant's eyes flicked briefly to Marcus, then back to David. "With respect, sir, children are easier to relocate. He'll be fine in economy. We'll provide him with snacks and keep an eye on him." The words hung in the air like an insult. Marcus's cheeks flushed as passengers nearby began to listen. A man across the aisle raised his eyebrows, shaking his head. A woman whispered to her husband, "Did she just say that?" David placed his hand gently on Marcus's shoulder. His voice dropped, quiet but commanding. "He's 8 years old. He's not flying alone. And he's not being downgraded because you think he doesn't belong here." The attendant stiffened. "Sir, please don't make this difficult. We're simply following procedure." David's jaw tightened. Years of boardroom battles and negotiations had taught him restraint, but nothing cut deeper than watching his child's dignity trampled. He stood slowly, towering over the attendant. "Let me make myself clear. My son stays in this seat. If you want to resolve an overbooking issue, you will find another solution. But if you so much as suggest moving him again, this flight won't leave the ground." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Marcus clung to his father's arm, eyes wide, as the tension thickened. The attendant faltered, retreating a step, but before she could respond, another crew member approached. This one, older, with the authority of a lead attendant, tried a different tactic. "Sir," she said smoothly, "I understand your frustration. But we must prioritize certain passengers. Surely you can see how practical it is for a child to sit elsewhere." David's voice rose, calm but powerful, carrying through the cabin. "Practical? To strip a child of his seat? To humiliate him in front of a plane full of strangers? No. What I see is a crew willing to compromise ethics for convenience." Phones were out now, passengers recording. Someone whispered. "He's right." Another added. "This is unbelievable." The lead attendant's smile faltered. "Sir, if you refuse to comply, we may have no choice but to remove you from the flight." And that was the breaking point. David reached into his jacket, pulling out his wallet. He flipped it open, revealing a sleek black card and a business ID. The logo of his multi-billion-dollar company gleamed under the lights. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "My name is David Carter. I am the CEO of Carter Technologies. My company currently holds a $600 million software contract with your airline. That contract is under review this quarter. If you believe removing my son from his rightful seat is worth jeopardizing that relationship, by all means, proceed." The cabin erupted. Passengers gasped, some applauded quietly, others muttered words of agreement. The attendants froze, their confidence crumbling. The lead attendant's face strained of color, her voice faltering. "Sir, I didn't realize." David leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. "That's exactly the problem. You didn't realize. You saw a black child in first class and assumed he didn't belong. You tried to strip him of dignity because you thought no one would push back. But you were wrong." Marcus squeezed his father's hand, his chest swelling with pride even as tears brimmed in his eyes. For the first time in those tense minutes, he felt safe again. The captain himself emerged from the cockpit, alerted by the commotion. His face was grim as he took in the scene, the passengers' stares, the phones recording. He turned to David. "Sir, I assure you this will be addressed. Your son will remain in his seat. Please accept my apologies." David's voice cut through the cabin once more. "It's too late for apologies. What matters now is accountability. I expect a full written report by the time we land, and I will personally ensure this reaches your board of directors." The captain nodded stiffly, shame etched across his features. The attendants retreated, chastened, their authority shattered. The flight continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Passengers whispered to each other about what they had witnessed. Some leaned over to tell Marcus how brave he was. Others thanked David quietly, saying he had stood up for more than just his son. He had stood up for every parent, every child, every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. When the plane touched down, Marcus looked up at his father with wide eyes. "Dad, you didn't let them take my seat." David smiled softly, pulling his son close. "That's because no one takes what's yours, Marcus. Not when you've earned it. And never because of who you are." The story didn't end there. By the next morning, videos of the confrontation flooded social media. Headlines blazed across news outlets. CEO confronts airline over discrimination. The airline scrambled to issue statements, suspending the crew involved and launching an internal investigation. Behind closed doors, executives whispered nervously about contracts, about reputations, about the price of arrogance. For Marcus, it became a lesson he would carry forever. That day, his father didn't just defend his seat. He defended his dignity. And in doing so, he reminded everyone watching that true power isn't measured in titles or wealth, but in the courage to protect what matters most. And for the flight crew, their careers would never recover. Because in trying to diminish a child, they had revealed the smallest version of themselves. And the world had seen it. If this story struck a chord with you, hit the like button so more people can hear it. Share it with someone who believes in standing up for dignity and justice, no matter the cost. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more powerful stories that show what happens when courage meets arrogance at 30,000 feet.